Hey everyone, this is Tell the Truth Radio, Sports Radio. I'm your host, Rob Fitch, and I got a good show for you today. I got NFL historian from NFL Films, Buffalo historian Jeffery Miller talked about the Bills and Dolphins, and we had a lot of fun talking about that. Also, um, I want to break down the rest of the NFL, but I want to do Bills, Dolphins first. I like the Bills. The Bills are healthier. Nick Chubb is not there. Waddle's not there. Tyreek Hill's not 100%. Both teams are good. The Dolphins are kind of wobbling toward the finish. The Bills are on a roll. Um, Even though they're going to South Beach at night, the fans are gonna be crazy. There'll be some Buffalo Mafia representing Miami. But I like the Bills because I like Allen over Tua. I think is good with the deep ball sometimes. Sometimes he underthrows the deep ball. Sometimes he's really accurate when he gets his feet set. Sometimes he's not. If there's a little pressure, it can be third and 11, and you can hear the announcer. Wow, he missed him. He was open. Just a little wide, a little short. Allen is got a spectacular arm. Now, Allen could throw some bad interceptions, but I am banking on my guy. I know you got Hill versus Diggs, but I'm banking on my guy, big game, Gabe Davis, to come through with a game-winning touchdown catch to win the day for the Buffalo Bills. And Miller is starting to get healthy as far as the pass rush. And they have you're going to find out how underrated some Oliver and Rousseau and all these other dudes are on their defense. So I'm riding with the Buffalo Bills. I do believe the Colts are going to win at home. I don't know about Baltimore and Pittsburgh because Baltimore doesn't need the game. They can't knock off Pittsburgh if Pittsburgh loses because Pittsburgh can still get it if they lose. They can still get it if they win, or they can get eliminated. It's kind of a mess. And Pittsburgh built that mess by losing the Patriots. So as much as I love my Steelers, if they don't make it, I can't feel bad for you when you don't beat the Patriots at home with the ball in the last second and you should have played Mason Rudolph. So there you have it. But I think Cleveland could make a run. They're in Baltimore's bracket. I wonder how long this Flacco magic carpet goes. Can he get payback for Baltimore? Say, for instance, they get past their 4-5 game, and now they're staring Baltimore in the face. Now, listen, they are very comfortable playing in Baltimore. Their defense can stop the Ravens. They did before in Baltimore. They know their system. Now, the Ravens can get after Flacco because Flacco's a statue, and they know him, and Harbaugh knows him. So it just comes down to execution now. Cleveland has to get out of that 4-5 game, which could be Jacksonville, could be Texans. We don't know. If they get out of that game, which is a big if, that could be an interesting matchup for Baltimore. If not, I think Baltimore gets at least to the AFC Championship. And do not ever sleep on Patrick Mahomes. And I know everybody laughs about Travis Kelce not playing well. Travis Kelce loves the spotlight. When this red light comes on, I don't care if road, home game, wherever, you're gonna have to drive a stake through the Kansas City Chiefs' heart to beat them. They're gonna be beatable, but I think Rice is catching the ball more. With Kelce, it will be a better. Pacheco runs hard. Hilaire is good in the backfield, and you could tell the dog in Mahomes when he scrambled and willed his way to that last yard against Cincinnati to get a key first down. He'll do whatever it takes to win. Andy Reid can dial it up. I'm hoping for a Kansas City Buffalo. That would be the second round. I was hoping it'd be the championship game, but we'll see. But anyway, I do like that side on AFC. I like the Bills to win their division and get the 2 seed, and then everybody has to go to that frigid Buffalo. They're a good team, and it's cold. They're just hard to beat out there. In the NFC, I think chalk holds up. The Cowboys get the division, get the 2 seed. 49ers get the one. They have the 1 seed already. I'm interested in seeing if the Packers and Rams get in, make noise. Those are my live dogs. Any other team that gets in, the Cowboys and the Lions are going to make mincemeat out of. And then that means the Lions go back to Dallas, the scene of the crime. where, well, the crime is called the Lions, but anyway, can they right that wrong? Can Dallas do better? That I'm leaning toward Dallas and the Lions, and I'm leaning toward Tampa beating the Eagles because I don't care if the Eagles win or lose this week, but they, I call them a bunch of cowards last week, so I'm standing by that. Uh, Tampa will beat Carolina, and then Tampa will beat the Eagles, and then Tampa will get destroyed by the 49ers. So I think we're headed toward Dallas. We're headed toward another Dallas San Francisco championship. I remember 70. I remember 71. I remember 72 was the playoff game when the 49ers had no business losing to stall back. And that was the playoff. That wasn't the championship. I remember 81 the catch. I remember Alvin Harper streaking down the sideline after Jimmy Johnson's first Super Bowl against the Niners. I remember the Niners getting clobbered in Dallas in big letters that Jimmy Johnson bragged about. I remember Switzer coming there, and it could have been a pass interference call. It could not have been. But the 49ers, with all those veteran players that they grabbed up, end up beating Dallas. The 49ers have a lot of talent now. The 49ers are home. 49ers will beat up Dallas like they did in 94. Dallas wants to beat the 49ers like they did in 92. It's been a while, but somebody, I mean, they both play each other. Somebody's got to go to the Super Bowl, and they have a chance to break this long streak of not winning. All right, I have Buffalo Bills historian Jeffery Miller back again because this is Dolphins week.
Miami week, yeah.
South Beach, not like the cold Buffalo. Two contrasting weather cities.
Right.
What do you think the key is for you to win this game?
I think part of the key is having Bradley Chubb and Jalen Waddle on the sideline. That's going to be a big thing. I really think the Bills need to get Stephon Diggs involved in this game. I mean, when you look at the last two victories, the game where they won 48-20 earlier in the season, and the playoff game last year, Stephon Diggs went over 100 yards in both games, and I think that's a big key right here. And I don't think Eli Apple is up to covering Gabe Davis. So I think that the Bills have a really good chance. You get James Cook going in the mix. You just got to figure the Bills got a really good shot now that the Dolphins. Tyreek is walking around on a cast, and Waddle's probably not going to play, and Mostert they don't think he's going to play. It's going to be tough for the Dolphins to overcome that. I think if everybody was healthy, this would be a dogfight.
Yes.
But I think that this really, really gives the Bills an advantage.
And then you can win the division.
Yeah, right. And that's funny because they can go from second place overall to out of it completely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do believe they're going to win, and they're going to get, what is this, third seed?
They'll be the second seed if they win.
Wow.
Yeah.
So really, everybody's got to go through Buffalo except for Baltimore. If Baltimore gets clipped, everybody's going to Baltimore. And that means the Chiefs are finally going to have to go to Baltimore. You got your wish, man.
Finally. We always match up well against the Ravens, so that's good. We can get two home playoff games against weaker teams. That really bodes well for Buffalo.
I tell you who Baltimore has to watch out for is Joe Flacco, because Cleveland plays Baltimore tough. They don't care about going to Baltimore. And Flacco's on his revenge tour. He got rid of the Jets. Yeah. Now he's going to be looking at. You don't think he wants to get rid of his former team, and all the pressure's going to be on Baltimore.
Yeah, Flacco is, he's a good quarterback, but it's almost like you're waiting for that moment for the bubble to burst. He's had a great season. You love his story. He's probably comeback player of the year, but come on, he's against Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa. Come on.
Yeah, that's reality. Yeah. Definitely. I think the key for Buffalo is Cook and staying on schedule. Yeah. The way Joe Brady has got this offense, I think when it's balanced and out of pressures off of Allen, and now he could run judiciously. not just run recklessly. He's throwing the ball. And what about my guy? I told you he's the second best option in NFL is Gabe Davis, big game Gabe Davis.
Yeah, you last time you and I talked, I had some disparaging words about Gabe Davis, and then he went out and got a 100-yard game. Ron with me on that one, but yeah, he's a big game player. I mean, look at what he did in the playoffs against the Chiefs. And he had a big game last year in the playoffs against the Dolphins. So I think if Gabe Davis can step up, and again, I don't really have a lot of respect for Eli Apple. I mean, on the other
side, me neither. Never did.
Yeah, and on the other side, you obviously have all-world Jalen, but he'll cover Diggs, and you'll set Davis free, and maybe Davis will have that big day. But I agree with you about Cook, man. You get him going, and they're unstoppable.
Definitely. Yeah, I think Buffalo has a chance, man. What would be ironic if the Bills won the Super Bowl and beat the Cowboys? Would that be kind of an exorcism breaking?
Oh, that would be wonderful. Of course, we lost to them twice. And again, you got that big city, Dallas, against the underdog city, Buffalo, and for Buffalo to knock them off would be wonderful.
Now, I got the 49ers going, but I'm just saying, like the Red Sox had to get rid of the Yankees is like a exorcism. I was just wondering if the Bills ever win a Super Bowl, they probably got to beat Dallas and finally slay that dragon of those years.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about the 90s because we talked about the 70s last time. Okay. The 90s was crazy. Your chief rival was the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And I remember the 90 game in the snow, and Marino played good in the snow. Remember he threw the ball to the lineman? But Andre Reed and Lofton went crazy in that game.
Yeah. We in Buffalo, and I remember because that was, of course, we thought we were a juggernaut, but the Dolphins were the Dolphins to us. They were our Achilles heel. And when they came into Buffalo, and we it wasn't as close as it seemed. I mean, 44-33, I think was the final. But the game really wasn't that close.
It broke open late. It did because Kelly started. Really yes.
But Miami was playing in the snow, and they just weren't used to that. And that was a statement game. That Marv Levy had Don Shula's number from that point on.
He sure did. And then the game where you made that miraculous comeback against the Oilers. Yeah. And I feel like talent-wise, the Oilers could have beat the Bills and they could have beat the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. That's how good that Oiler team was, but they were a mess. You come back and beat them, right? And they whoop up on my Steelers. And then you go to Miami. So Miami's thinking, okay, they're coming here. We're going to beat them this time. You're coming to our place. We're going to beat you. But you've caused so many turnovers. I watched that. You turned it over a little bit, but you turned them over and you got a big lead. And Kenneth Davis went bonkers that game.
Kenneth Davis might have been the best backup halfback in the league during that era. I mean, had it not been for Thurman Thomas, he would have been starting somewhere else. And he had some big games, and that was a big one. Yeah.
And you whooped them because they had beat you in Buffalo and talked a lot. I mean, Louis Alvin did a long touchdown return, and they did a lot of talking. Yeah. And it seemed like you kind of had the mentality like, okay, we'll see when the playoffs come. We'll see when the playoffs come. We'll go to your place to show you that we're the resilient Bills. And before I get to that last playoff game they had, Marv Levy kind of was the combination of the World War II. I think his father was in World War II, or he was. And he was a Harvard or Yale. What was he?
Oh, Harvard.
No. Harvard. So he had that brilliant wit to go along with the World War II mentality.
Yeah.
So if I said, if it's too tough for them, what would you say?
If it's too tough for them, it's just right for us. That's right.
I like that. I knew I couldn't get that one past you.
Yeah. Daryl Talley still, when he comes to Buffalo and he's here for a game in Orchard Park and it's snowing outside, they'll get him on TV and he'll say this. He'll say it, and that's his big thing now. Is Daryl Talley is if it's too cold for them, it's just right for us. If it's too tough for them, it's just right for us. However you want to say it, that was that. Yeah,
that was true. That was that. When I watched those playoff games, it looked real cold, but the fans were comfortable. The Bills loved it out there, so that was your huge advantage. Where you beat the Chiefs, you beat the Dolphins, you beat the Oilers, and you did what you had to do, and you won on the road. This is the most resilient bunch I've ever seen. I mean,
Yeah.
you're looking at the Eagles; they're a mess after losing one Super Bowl. You guys got devastated by the Giants. It just kept coming back. The problem that I think you had, the
Yeah.
NFC East was amazingly tough. So you had to go through Dallas, Washington, and the Giants. Think about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, plus, I mean, when you think about who the competition was at the Bills, the Bills were the best team in the AFC for 4 straight years, but they went up against the best team in the NFC that was better than the best team in the AFC for 4 straight years, and
Yep.
that was the difference. The Giants game they probably should have won.
Oh yeah.
But the other three, I mean, the Redskins just, they beat the crap out of them. And the one Dallas game where the Thurman fumbled in the third quarter.
You had the lead.
We had the lead. So when you think about that, that was when we could have won. But but the other two were blowouts. I mean, getting blown out, what was it, 59 to whatever?
Oh yeah.
I don't remember the score, and then the Redskins beat us up, but I mean, to go to 4 straight, I don't know if that's ever going to be, again, like we talked about last time. In this era of free agency, I just don't think you can ever keep a team together that long.
It seemed like Kelly and Reed, they ran that one seam route where every time he caught the ball, he's running away from everyone every time. How does that work all the time? Every time he caught that seam route, Reed was flying in the end zone.
Reed was a very intelligent player, and I think that he would read the defensive backs, and he knew which seam to go into, and he and Kelly just had a thing like Kelly saw it too, so he knew if he was going to go outside or inside, and again, he had deceptive speeds, so once you got the ball to him, he was gone, and he could break tackles too. I mean, he was probably the best at yards after catch in his era. And that, if you watch his highlights, I mean, that was the thing about Andre Reed. He was just breaking tackles, and I mean, he was running like a halfback. But the speed that was deceptive, because he looked like he was built like a halfback. He didn't look like, like a Jerry Rice or a Willie Galt type of wide receiver where he was long and lanky. This guy was rock solid.
Yes,
he could fly.
And it always worked out. Like especially the Oiler comeback, where it seemed like you hit that one seam route over and over, right? Hit him, and it worked every time. What's crazy? How did the Buffalo Bills feel when I believe it was Don Beebe won with the Packers? Because they were happy for him, and I think he took the game ball and gave it to the Bills. How'd that work out?
Well, Brett Favre at the end of the Super Bowl, I guess Don Beebe, I believe Don Beebe asked him for the ball, and Brett Favre says, "You deserve it." Knowing what he'd been through. And I don't know if he brought it back and he gave it to Scott Norwood or something like that. But I think you're right. He may have just brought it back like a ceremonial thing, like to a reunion or something. But I recall that he brought it back here, and kind of like this, this is what we fought so hard to get, and here it is. I don't think he meant to rub it in their faces, but
Okay, I want you, because I couldn't. I want you to explain the craziness of the 1998 playoff series game in Miami with Flutie and Marino and all the back and forth, how crazy that game
Eric
was.
Moulds.
What a game.
Eric Moulds is probably, I still believe this to be true, Eric Moulds is the best wide receiver the Buffalo Bills ever had. The guy was just amazing. And he went through, like, I don't know what it was, 12, 13 starting quarterbacks in his time here in Buffalo, and he was, if you saw, he was a walking highlight reel. I mean, one-handed catches, bombs, breaking tackles, you name it. Eric Moulds was the guy. If he would have had a guy like Jim Kelly, or Dan Marino, or Troy Aikman, or Warren Moon, or some Joe Montana, somebody throwing the ball consistently at a high level, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think there's any question about that. He was that good. He went off that day.
He went off.
That was just a game that lives on in Bill's lore.
Definitely lives
like
on.
240 yards receiving.
Yeah, it was a record. It was a record.
Yeah.
Did you see the video I sent you with Mercury Morris?
Yeah.
Wow, that was the 70s, right? I mean, he probably gave him smelling salt. I mean, he stumbled toward to huddle. As soon as I saw that, I said, I gotta send that to you.
They did a pile driver on him, and, and I mean they drove him into the ground, and he came back in that game. And
He did.
Mercury Morris was outstanding. You know,
Yeah.
that's he always lived in the shadow of O.J. Simpson and
Yep.
and all that. But and he had to deal with having Larry Zonka and Jim Kick in the same backfield. Mercury Morris was great.
He was great. And you know what was crazy is that he came back and they were able to win. But that was a crazy time. Now, how bad would that guy on Buffalo would have got suspended and fined right now?
Oh, that definitely would have been a fine. That would have been an unnecessary roughness penalty without question. Yeah,
it might have been.
Yeah.
And this here might have been ejection too.
Yeah, that was Neil Craig. He was a good defensive back, but that was kind of a cheap shot. He picked him up and he carried him and just
slammed him.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
that was.
By the way, yeah.
That's why I like talking to you, because there was some fun times right there.
Yeah.
Finally, are you going to go to the Buffalo playoff game if they're home?
I don't think I'm going to be able to. My brother has the tickets in the family, and I go a few games a year. But his son is going to be the one who's going to want to go to the game. So I'm probably going to be sitting at home in the warm weather, in the warmth of my living room, where I can go get a beer when I want to. I can go to the lavatory when I want to.
Yo, you're like you have a man cave, a Buffalo Bills man cave back there, dude. You're like, okay,
yeah.
You.
This is my office.
Okay.
This is So this is I get a lot of my memorabilia here.
Wow. Listen, I don't know if the Freddy Kruegers are going to make it. I call the Steelers that, because they always rise from the dead ashes, and then they need about 8 or 9 teams to win or lose. But I hope both teams get in, but I do hope Buffalo gets in, because I know the chance that you have to make a run. You're not going to be one and done. If you get in and you're the 2 seed, man, that's just more times we can talk. Number one. Number two, I just think Allen. I want Allen to get a chance. I want Allen on that big stage to get to the Super Bowl and see what happens.
Well, in last year's playoff game, he threw for 352 yards and 3 touchdowns. So you get him in the playoffs, and this guy, I mean, look at what he did against the Chiefs, the one year. He does well in the playoffs usually. The Bengals game last year didn't end very well, but he's usually does pretty well in the playoffs. So I think if we get in there and we get Diggs going, like I said, that I think we're going to go deep.
I do too. You know why? You're playing a home number, but also think about this. He's seasoned. He's battle tested. He's been there. He's done that. So no situation is going to mess him up. He's not going to be frazzled with the pressure. And he's entering his prime. And this seems like the perfect storm for you guys.
Yeah, I think so. But some of these teams, like they're on a like you talked about Cleveland. If Cleveland has to come here, they're dangerous.
Yeah.
They're dangerous. I don't know. I mean, Mason Rudolph starting for the Steelers. I don't know if that's something we need.
Listen, I'll throw a party if they make the wild card and lose. Yeah. I mean, if they make it, all right. That's. But I think the teams that you really have to worry about, Cleveland, because of their defense.
Yeah.
You have to go to Baltimore, but you guys aren't afraid there. And then, of course, Mahomes, man. Even though they struggle, they're the champs. And that guy, you got to drive a stake through his heart. You
never count out Patrick Mahomes. He's had a down year, and he's, people have made a little fun of him, and rightly so. He kind of had a little meltdown, but what quarterback hasn't at some point?
Yeah.
And I think the problem for them right now, other than the fact that they're wide receiver, they don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. Mm-hmm. They got to get Travis Kelce's head right. I don't know if it's a Taylor Swift thing, but he just does not seem to be the same guy he was the last couple of years. And I think Andy, if anybody can right this ship, it's Andy Reid. I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes, you got the best quarterback in the NFL right now.
But you know what? Kelce does love the spotlight. So in the playoff, that light might come on in the playoffs. He does like that.
Yeah.
Before, and I'm gonna do this one more time before I let you go. What is one Buffalo Bill that really needs to be in the Hall of Fame that you have a problem that's not in the Hall of Fame right now?
Well, for me, the number one glaring omission is Fred Smirlis.
Oh my
People,
goodness.
people talk about Joe Klecko, but
Uh,
actually, Fred Smirlis defined the nose guard
nose
position.
tech. Yeah.
Okay, Joe Klecko played defensive end, defensive tackle, and nose tackle. Fred Smirlis was the nose tackle in a 3-4 in a classic 3-4 defense, and he was a 5-time All Pro, and he defined that position before anybody else really did. There were some guys, Curly Culp and a few guys that came before, but where you actually just, this is our defense, this is our guy,
Hmm.
this is what we're going with. And I think that Fred Smirlis is probably the guy I would go with. We've had some really good players come along, like Ted Washington and Pat Williams, but Fred Smirlis, yeah, that's the one place where I will fault Marv Levy, where he felt Fred was over the hill and he put Jeff Wright
I
in
remember
there.
that.
And I think that maybe if Fred had been in there for the first couple of Super Bowls, maybe he could have made a difference.
Oh,
Maybe he
yeah.
could have risen to the challenge. He played 3 or 4 more years after the Bills got rid of him, and he was he was one of the most popular players in Bills history. People just loved him. His sense of humor, he was his love of the nightlife. That Bills team that Chuck Knox brought in with Bill
80,
Belichick,
81. Yeah.
Conrad Dobler, and Isaiah Robertson, and
Yeah.
this team was just full of characters.
Full of
And
Rams. Full of LA
yeah,
Rams.
I mean Isaiah Robertson and um, Bill Simpson, and
Simpson. Yeah.
yeah, and there were others. It was a great team, but it was a fun loving team. You had Joe Cribbs, and you had just so many characters on that team. Lou Pacone,
You had my guy. You had my guy from the Steelers, Frank Lewis.
Frank Lewis came here and had a career renaissance.
Oh, yeah.
He's stuck behind John Stallworth and Lynn Swan. Okay,
Yep.
he comes to Buffalo and he becomes an All Pro.
Oh, bro.
He's just he was and again a classy guy, and he played on the other side of Jerry Butler, and the two of them were just a great wide receiver tandem. But they always played in the shadow of the Steelers, who had those two Hall of Famers. And of course, the Bills again could never get up to that level where they were making the Super Bowl. But that was a really good team.
I'll give you mine. They were receivers from the 70s. One was Mel Gray,
Yeah.
because that offense was humming. Metcalf and Hart and those dudes and Jackie Smith, they just they were in the NFC
Metcalf,
East.
man. Oh, yeah.
Terry Metcalf. And one more that was underrated, maybe I'll put him in the Hall of Good. He always got past his defender. Super underrated was Harold Jackson.
I love Harold Jackson and I love Stanley Morgan too. But
Stanley Morgan.
Jackson out there in LA and in Philadelphia, he was fantastic.
And New England.
And Stanley Morgan. And another one was, Henry Allard came a little bit later, but yeah, just some really good underrated wide receivers out there that, just, if they had been in the right situation, maybe, they'd win a couple rings here and there. I mean, I was thrilled to see Drew Pearson get his ring.
I did. Did you see my interview with him?
No, I didn't.
I'm gonna send it to you. And he loved it. He said, "How does this guy know everything about me? I studied him because he was the enemy. I was younger. I was a Steelers, and he was a Cowboys, and I knew how clutch he was. I was so happy for him to get in, and give love to these 70s receivers because you don't have the stats, but they were great, all-time great. You know,
they might have topped out at like 60 receptions a year.
Yeah,
and lucky to get 1,000 yards. But the difference these guys made, they made spectacular catches, and they scored touchdowns, and they were great. They were just outstanding players. Think about Ahmad Rashad or Steve. Well, Steve Largent made it in, but there's a lot of guys who you just kind of went under the radar and just never really got their due because of where they played or the circumstances they were playing in. You look at I remember the Atlanta Falcons had Jackson and Jenkins.
Oh my goodness!
And these guys, they didn't play together very long, but when they were humming, they were scary.
Let me ask you something. If they had got past Dallas like they were supposed to, got the Super Bowl, would they ever beat Jim Plunk and the Raiders?
I don't know if the Raiders were lucky. I mean, Jim Plunkett is a great story, and you hear people say, "Oh, he belongs in the Hall of Fame." I mean, he had 2 good years. He
Yeah.
was never an MVP. He was never an All Pro. He was never even made a Pro Bowl, but he won 2 Super Bowls. So
Yeah.
I don't know how lucky he was, or just he was the right place at the right time. Um,
Do
but
they beat the Falcons though?
but
With
I love Barkowski.
Barkowski. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a good team. They had Andrews and Kane, I believe, in the backfield, and
Yeah.
then they have those 2 outstanding wide receivers. And Wallace Francis from Buffalo was also a wide receiver on their team. So who knows? I think the Falcons would definitely have a chance.
They gave him a better game than the Eagles.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's so glad.
I love the Eagles. you know,
Yeah.
yeah. Wilbur
That's what I'm glad
Montgomery
I
is one
asked
of
you.
my favorite players of all time. I love Wilbur
Oh,
Montgomery. You know, and
it's
Harold Carmichael.
Harold Carmichael got in. William Montgomery kind of scooted. He was a
Oh, he was
quick
great.
darting running back.
Yeah, yeah, I loved
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Oh, you talk about the good old days. Listen, man, it's good talking to you, but I wanted to spring that Falcon question on you. I'm glad I asked you because I wanted to learn your expertise. Listen, you were terrific as usual. All right, let's go Buffalo. Let's get in the playoffs so we can do this again, man.
Yeah, we'll do it again anytime.